Welcome to the Strand and the rare book room in the Strand, which I don't know about you, but I don't get to come in here a lot, so it's like a real treat. But we're not here to talk about all of these old books that are very valuable and interesting in their own right. We are here because of this extraordinary woman and the phenomenal debut novel that she has written. I had the chance to read this book back when it was just a manuscript floating in the internet between emails, and I have to tell you guys, I was blown away. These characters, this world that she has built, to me just really speaks to a singular talent and a voice that is going to be pretty important in years to come. So you can say you were here at her first book launch. First and foremost, thank you so much to the Strand for having us here tonight. This is a dream for any author and her team, and we're just so very grateful for you guys having us. The Strand has been around since 1927, so that's pretty cool. And you know, we're just very, very grateful to be here and appreciative of all of the efforts of the team here. Tonight, Maureen is going to be in conversation with Jenny Milchman, who is also a fabulous author in her own right. And I think that you guys are in for a real treat in the little discussion we have going on here today. So without further ado, I am very excited to welcome Maureen Joyce Connolly for the launch of Little Lovely Things. Maureen is an award-winning poet, published in diverse outlets such as Emory University's Lullwater Review and Yankee Magazine. She is also a former owner of a consulting firm that helped specialty drug companies develop medications for ultra-rare diseases. Her background in science and love of the natural world informs and inspires her writing. Joining Maureen tonight, as mentioned, is Jenny Milchman. Jenny is the award-winning author of such books as Cover of Snow, Ruin Falls, and As Night Falls. She is Vice President of Author Programming for International Thriller Writers, a member of Sisters in Crime Speakers Bureau, and the founder and organizer of Take Your Child to a Bookstore Day. That's fun, which is celebrated annually in all 50 states. Please join me in welcoming Maureen and Jenny to the Strand tonight. And to that effect, for anyone who has their drink in their hand, which I hope is all of you, because we're very, very lucky to have this lovely sparkling champagne and macaroons, I would like to toast to this evening, which is momentous and such a treat to be here with you all. I'm very, very grateful. Woo! Toast to Maureen Joyce Connolly and Little Lovely Things.
Toasting with your girl.
Yeah, let's not ruin it. I'm shaking too much to drink it, okay? Except
Take
I'll
a good
manage.
swallow.
I know I'll manage though.
Now over to the ladies who you actually came here to see.
Okay, so what do I do with this thing, Sarah? Do I push a button? I don't, oh my gosh. Okay, where do I start? I'm going to jump off this thing for a minute. I'm going to do the walking around thing. Okay. So, I had a speech prepared for tonight, and then I just tossed that sucker out the window because I was like, that's going to sound dry and weird, because what I want to really say to you all is coming from my heart, and that is, I'm so grateful you're here to share this moment with me, because I'm not going to cry, I'm not doing it. It's a dream come true. It took a long time to write this book. Always wanted to be an author. It took me close to 10 years. And I pretty much kept it to myself with a few exceptions in the room that I was able to share it with. And it just, built up over time, and I had so much love and support. And so I just want to extend my gratitude to you all for being here, because this is an evening to celebrate love and friendship and family and sharing good things in our lives. So thank you all so much. we're going to move this along fairly quickly. I'm going to do a quick reading, but first I just want to thank, I can't do it individually, but I'm going to thank the different groups that are here. First, my immediate family. I couldn't do any of it without you, and I'm so grateful. My extended family, some of you have traveled so far to be here this evening with us, and I'm so grateful for that. And then all of my friends from so far away, some traveling from Boston, some from Connecticut, Philly, some I've known more recently, and some for many, many years. And I just have to give a crazy shout out to that Dragon Boat team over there, okay? Woo! And then, of course, they're coming in from the back. And then, of course, they're all over the place. And, of course, my team of lovelies, my professional women that have supported me, Sarah and Anna, my editor, who is here this evening, and Heather Karpus, my agent, and Jenny, an author, a terrific author, who took me under her wing when I called her up and said, my book's coming out in 3 months, what do I do? And she said, we've got this, Maureen. So I so appreciate that. So everyone here tonight know that I so appreciate this, and I'm extending my love to you and my gratitude. So here we go. I'm going to do a brief reading. Excuse me. And I chose page 8 in my book. I have to put my readers on. Still can't read without them. Okay. It's not the very beginning, but it's close to the very beginning. So I'll just give you a real quick background. The story begins with a woman named Claire Rawlings, who is my protagonist. She is a medical resident. She has 2 young children and a husband, and she's a very busy lady. And she becomes ill from a reaction to a vaccine. So I'm just going to read a little part where she's getting her girls off in the morning. So she now is in the kitchen. Her husband has left. He's handing the girls over to her, and she's managing these 2 girls. Andrea, can you help? Claire turned to find her older daughter standing next to the parakeet cage, still in her Curious George nightgown. Andrea wedged a finger into the gap of her missing front tooth and wiggled, attempting to loosen the remaining one. With her other hand, she stuffed a neat little triangle of waffle through the wires of the cage. Soldier Gray Butkus scooted along his perch, his right wing flaring awkwardly like misfolded origami. Buck! Buck! Claire rubbed her temples with her fingertips. Andrea, don't. He doesn't eat waffles. Why not? It'll make him sick. That's why not. How? Honey, Claire said, it just will. She almost said he'll choke on it. That's how. He'll gobble it down, and it'll glom into a wad in his gizzard, and he'll end up at the bottom of his cage, feet pointing to heaven, X's for eyes, strangled on a frozen pastry. But she chose her words carefully around Andrea, the daughter with mercurial eyes and moods to match. You could never tell which way she took things, sometimes indifferent, other times overly concerned, like an old man in a little girl packet. Butkus snatched the morsel, his sharp beak too close to Andrea's finger, and gobbled it down in one smooth motion. He then scooted quickly back to the center of his perch to stare at Claire accusingly with one white-rimmed eye. Buck! Buck! His scratchy little voice pierced the air with a strain of verbal awareness. Hurry up! Okay, Claire responded in a falsetto tone, the one she used on Glenn when he pissed her off. Thank you, Butkus. What'd you say, Mommy? Nothing, honey. Please hurry. Claire lifted Lily from her high chair and grabbed the Benadryl from the cupboard. She took only 1 dose because, Christ, she had to function on rounds today. Uck! Uck! Damn bird.
You would not know what a terrifying book it is from that excerpt.
I make it nice.
Well, it's a rare book, I think, that can make you sort of giggle with the empathy of, yes, I know what that life is like, and then also sit on the edge. There was a part of Little Lovely Things where I was like, if you do it, you better not do it. Oh, she did it. Do you want me to start?
Yes. Go ahead. Well, can I just say this is what I loved about you, because she called me up and she said, you did this. Like, who are you? Remember?
Well, what I was going to say about how we met, yeah. I mean, what I remember is that Maureen called me up, and we're both at the same publisher. And I don't think I was good enough to say, you've got this, and I certainly didn't say, I've got this. But what I did say was that Source Books has this. And they are a publisher that I knew as soon as Maureen told me in whose publishing hand she landed that she was going to do great. And then I didn't even know she had such a fantastic publicist on top of that. I mean, you can't lose with such a winning team behind you and a winning book. I mean, it comes down to the book at the end. So let's get into some questions. Oh, but I also wanted to say, do you guys remember Jerry Maguire and the talk show host who's like, I'm not going to cry, Jerry, I'm not going to, right? That was Maureen a second ago, and I think you cried.
Can I just say this, Jenny? One of the reasons I don't want to cry is I have mascara on. The last time I wore mascara is when I married that guy, okay? So it's not happening. So
it's a big day.
Yeah, it's a big day.
This is what I want to start with, Maureen, and it is Words from the Heart. Little Lovely Things opens with one of the most visual and arresting scenes I can remember in fiction, one every mother can relate to. Can you tell us a little bit about how it came to you and also what it was like to write it? Because I don't know that I could have done it.
So, Little Lovely Things has been in the making for a long time. I am a late in life mom. I had my youngest when I was 40. I'm not ashamed to say I'm 59, okay? And if you saw that picture of me with Mr. Bubbles, you'll understand. It's all good. But I just had a different experience with my youngest versus the two older children, and I just saw the world a little differently, and I seemed to be hypersensitive to things around me, and I remember seeing a lot of abduction stories on the news and reading about them. And I remember thinking, is this me? Is this real? Or is it like when you buy a blue car and you see a blue car everywhere? You know, I couldn't define it, but I knew something settled in me when I was listening to these people, thinking, what are their lives like after? All we hear about is the drama of the abduction, but what then happens? How does this play out psychologically? And how do they essentially self-rescue? How do they continue on? And so that's kind of what spurred the whole thought in my head. And really I built from there because I couldn't let go the notion of what will this look like after. So it helped me make the scene happen is because I knew that I was going to be carrying their lives forward. So that's kind of where it comes from, Jenny.
You had a sense of hope in you as you were writing it.
I did, and I have to say something about the sense of hope and to shout out to Source Books, because this cover, I almost fell over when I saw it. They got it down. The graphics department just perfectly had it down. And what they did was they read it, and then when they designed it, they used the black background with the bright colors on top, and that represents hope. So when they told me that, I was sold, and I'm so appreciative of it. So, yeah.
It's also got lovely embossing. The authors in the audience, and maybe some of the readers will know that when you can feel like a 3D on a book, it means it's a very important author.
That's new information for me. Thanks, Jenny. Where's my editor? Call it out.
Anna?
Anna. Oh, Anna, you should be sitting up here. Anna. Yeah. We have new people have arrived. Do you want to come and sit? Right. You'll all fit, hopefully. Okay. Welcome, not strangers, but great friends. Okay.
Let's stick with the whole visual part. When I was reading the book, I could see what Claire was. And to drop a teaser, I'm going to be really careful and not have spoilers, but what she wasn't seeing when you know what happened. Do you consider yourself a visual writer and also a visual person?
Absolutely. I think I'm a visual writer, but I also think I'm an oral writer. I write with my ear. If anyone who doesn't understand what that means is you're sort of hearing it in your head as you're writing it. And I think I use all the senses, Jenny, when I'm imagining it, but very much visual. Absolutely. Do you do that too? Just curious.
You know, for me, it's almost like I'm seeing the novel on a movie screen and I'm just sort of taking dictation. But it's funny that you said all the senses, because as soon as you said that, I was thinking of the gas station that that's not a spoiler, right? You guys know. Okay. I was thinking of that gas station scene, and it's one of you don't usually see taste and smell in fiction, or not see taste. You know what I mean? The author doesn't usually convey it as well as you did. You could feel like the griminess and the. You are a very sensory writer. That's amazing.
I just want to say one thing about that. This lady is you're the same type of writer. I think that's why we sort of connected. She's very descriptive and uses a lot of sensory language. So I think that's sort of a bond we have.
Okay, well then, so another question, because for me it feels very unconscious. Like if I am, I wouldn't even have been aware of that. So do you feel like that's something, when you read writing books, sometimes they're like, make sure you think of all the senses. Do you feel like you're doing it deliberately, or it just comes to you that way?
I honestly, everything about my writing, and the characters as well, the characters presented themselves to me. I didn't make them up. So I think that's the way I write, is just the story presented itself to me, and the descriptiveness, all of that. I just had to learn to welcome it into my world, basically.
Like if you open up, they will come. And okay, I'm not going to tell you guys very much about me, but I will just say this one thing because it ties into the next, which is that after my first novel came out, I went on a 7-month book tour with my husband working from the front seat and the kids being car schooled and back.
Isn't that great? I love
I just had to slip it in because it does segue. I say that because what I learned doing all those events in 7 months was that the audience is especially interested in the publishing business and the writing process. So I want to switch the discussion a little bit to that. We'll get back to the book. It's hard to get a book published. I mean, Bryce Harper just signed a $330 million, sports deal, and I'm not going to say it's as hard as that, but right after.
It's harder.
Right after. Well, not writing the book. We're not talking about right now. Just no. Yeah. Please tell us about the publication journey.
Okay. You guys have all night. I'm just curious. Okay, how much time do we have? It was really surprised me. So the first step in the quote-unquote publication journey, if you're not interested in self-publishing, which I was not, I didn't think I had the wherewithal to self-promote, etc., was to land a very good agent at a very good agency. And Heather is here somewhere, and before Heather, I had an agent named Sharon Green, who is sitting right next to her, who worked for ICM Partners. ICM Partners, I believe, is the largest literary talent agency in the world. This was a dream come true. And I'll tell you how that happened is Sharon Green believed in me when she read the manuscript, and she read it in one night, and she called me up and said, this is going to happen, basically. So, and then when Sharon left ICM, Heather picked me right up, so I'm so grateful for that. In the publishing industry, if you're not interested in self-publishing, you really have to have a good agent behind you, because publishers don't really take any manuscripts without that. So that was terrific. We did some editing. We did some more editing. I actually have an editor friend here who really helped me pull it all together. And so we just kept working on it, Andrea Robinson right there. And when we felt like it was time to go out, it was this crazy moment of, when the agency goes and approaches different publishers. And thankfully, Anna Michaels took on my book. She was thrilled to have it, and I was thrilled that she was my editor. She has a great reputation in the industry. And that's when the publishing journey got really crazy, okay? Because you have to learn so much in such a short time. The learning curve is so steep, and it was a complete sea change for me because I was in a whole different industry. And I didn't understand the lingo. I didn't understand a lot of the things that had to unfold in order to move through it stepwise. So that's when I reached out and made sure that I got myself help with a private publicist. That's Sarah, who you see. And she sort of helped hold my hand through the whole thing. But it was really a lot of learning and a lot of editing. I was surprised at how much editing. I felt like I had to re-edit the whole book. right? And it's stronger for it, but at the time, it just feels overwhelming. So it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work because you begin establishing a platform 6 to 8 months out before the book comes out. You really begin marketing at that point, and you are highly involved in it. So it was a surprise for me almost every day. And that's when I started reaching out to other authors for help. And Suzie Leopold, who's here this evening, introduced me to a number of authors. And I'm so grateful for it because what I wasn't prepared for was how supportive the author community is. I have some terrific friends that just took me under their wing and said, it's going to be okay. You know, you'll learn X, Y, and Z. You will learn yourself forward through this. So, but I wasn't prepared to work full time, 7 days a week. But I'm so grateful that I did and that it's finally out. It's like really giving birth, you know? In a way.
It is like that. Suzie is a book blogger, Suzie approved. I highly recommend if you guys are book people, follow her blog. You will get great recommendations, giveaways, really fun way to know the book world is book bloggers.
Suzie, raise your hand, please. Yay!
You said so much interesting stuff, Maureen. One of which was like the cycle of the editing. Like every time I get a new edit, I don't know if it was like this for you, the comments arrive, and you can ask my husband this, and I'm like, no, there's no more this book could possibly need. I'm done. It's perfect. And then I open the comments, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a piece of absolute, I'm going to have to be editing it for the next 10 years. Was it like that?
It feels impossible.
Right?
And you're like being asked to change this wonderful thing you wrote. And you're like, this is the best thing I ever wrote.
That's ever been written.
Right, that's ever been. You're like Shakespeare and something. And then, later you look at it and you go, thank God they made me change that.
I know.
Right? But you're right. I mean, poor Jim got beat up like 90 times. I'm just like, I can't do this, It's just horrible. And then you sit down and do it. You did not get beat up, Patrick. I'm sorry. Don't fall for that, ladies and germs. Just saying,
Oh, what a perfect segue. The families do suffer,
Oh, yes, amen.
You hear of like writers' kids who are like, my mom disappeared for 6 years.
And ate McDonald's the whole time that she hid.
Carla Buckley, who also is a great author, has a new book out. I'll give it a shout out. Probably at the Strand, Liar's Child. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
She calls it the year I stopped making dinner.
Yes. He's been making dinner the last 3 months.
Well, so we're going to talk about that. Well, it's a perfect segue for two things. But all right, last 3 months you said. So yeah, give us a snapshot into. This is an amazing book launch. The Strand. Fantastic. I mean, what an honor to be in these rooms. I just can't believe it. And there's macarons and pink champagne. So what more could you want? Tell us how you planned it. Tell us what it was like knowing your book was about to come out and you're trying to host a party, but you also are about to be a book mama. And, tell us about that.
When I wrote this book, when I started thinking about it, I'm like, I gotta be in the Strand. So this has like been coming, When I first started engaging with my publicist at Source Books, who couldn't be here tonight, Caitlin Kennedy, who's really the other side of Sarah and so terrific, and my heart goes out to her because she couldn't be here. But I'm so grateful to her. That's one of the first things when I met her, I said, we have to be at the Strand. And she said that, I don't know. And I said, really? You don't know? She's like, let me see what I can do. And I said, and then she came back to me and said, they liked your book because they read the book before you can't just get into the Strand. So she said, we're going to be in the Strand. This was in September. So that gave me plenty of time to plan. I was like, champagne, macaroons, we're going to have to match the cover, everybody. I had, so in my head, but I had so much help planning it. But I knew right away I wanted to be here because it's such an iconic bookstore. It's such a great place, and it's so upbeat and wonderful, I don't know if you're all aware of it, but it's really the mothership of independent bookstores in the whole United States. It's a great place.
Yeah, 18,000. I'm really bad with numbers. I was going to say 18,000 miles, but that can't be right?
That's what
18,000 miles? Really? Yeah. See, I told you I was bad with numbers.
She's a fiction writer. Can you tell?
It's like, is there a difference? Okay, so go back to the whole family thing. So Louise Penny, author of the Three Pines Mystery series, she says the number one thing an author needs is a supportive partner. But Maureen, you and I have had conversations and we've talked about this, and I know that parts of your process are very, very solitary. So I wanted you to reflect on that quote by Louise, agree or disagree, and tell us how it manifests in your own life, the solitary versus the need for the partner.
It's really tough because, in a way, I think to live with a writer, and thank you so much to my terrific husband of 35 years, because it is a very solitary experience, at least the actual development of the story. And I would have to be basically sealed off in my office without any disturbance. Jim bought me some Bose headphones so I didn't have to hear the UPS truck going by or whatever, but he always believed in me. That's the thing, you know, I mean, as a writer, especially if it takes you a long time to accomplish your dream, you really need someone who from the beginning is like, I just believe in what you're doing. I think you're amazing. And he was one of the first guys that read my book. It was great. He read it. He was coming back from a business meeting in California, and he read it on the red eye coming back. And he didn't know what to expect. He had no idea. Because I kind of worked in silence. And he just walked in the door and said, man, you've got something here, and stood by me the whole time. So I'm so grateful for that. And my family, I've had nothing but support from my children. I have to tell you this story, and I'm sorry, Patrick, I have to share it. You can get mad at me later. But when he was in 7th grade, I used to drive him to the train station to take, ninth grade, to the train station because he took the train to high school. And every day before he got out of the car, he would be opening the door and he'd say, good luck on your novel today, Mom, and shut the door. Can I tell you how much that carried me through? Some real tough scenes to write and stuff, but I had Patrick on my shoulder, so I'm so grateful. And my other 2 great kids, and Catherine Ann, she helped me edit. She's a good eye for editing, and all the love and support I've gotten from all 3 of my kids has been terrific. So I can't say thank you enough.
So let's get back to this wonderful book that you're all about to read, or actually show of hands, how many people have read it?
Oh, okay. My goodness.
Wow. All right. Well, so some of you might have opinions, and like when we get to the Q&A, which I think is everybody's favorite part, maybe you'll weigh in on these next 2 questions, and then you do want to switch to Q&A, right? Okay, so Little Lovely Things plays with time in interesting ways that I, at least as a reader, felt up the tension almost unbearably. Then I wrote in a good way, of course, but I was kind of cursing Maureen while I was reading it. In a good way, but can you tell us how you decided on the timeline and the time frame for this novel?
Oh my goodness, that was so difficult. That was one of my major challenges as I wrote it. And that's when, if you undertake something, such a marathon event as writing a novel, when you learn that you have to learn how to do it. There's a skill set associated. You don't just sit down and write a novel. There's structural components to it. And, making the timeline work was really tough for me. That came late. That was a struggle. And I think it was Andrea's help with that and Sharon's. And it really helped me out. But that was a huge struggle. Do you struggle with timeline too?
No, but I think it's because I am kind of a simplistic writer. Like, when I was reading your book, I kept thinking you were so sophisticated because the way, it's not non-linear time, but you really take, I don't want to give anything away for those of you who haven't said it because it really shocked me. I thought it was a very brave and courageous act what you did with the time.
Thank you, and I will tell you, my friends will tell you I'm not sophisticated, just so you know.
You look sophisticated.
I may look it, but no, I wear my footy jammies at night. I'm not sophisticated.
But did you ever consider doing the timeline? You said it came too late. Did you ever consider doing it completely differently? Like, I really don't want to give something away, but there's something interesting with time in the first, 40, 50 pages. You considered not doing it that way.
I did. I tried I can tell you multiple, maybe half a dozen, and nothing flowed right. And it was really very challenging for me. And it really stopped me dead in my creative tracks for a while. There was plenty of times when I was writing this novel where I had to stop and catch my breath, do some reading, look at how other authors were doing it. And I think it's interesting because I think Jenny is really talking about the timing piece because you're looking at it from an author's perspective. Because time is really tricky to deal with, And so I tried multiple what would you call it? Variable ways of doing it. And then finally I was like, this I think works. And I do think it works, but it was a struggle.
It's the kind of thing where after you've read it, you're like, oh, it couldn't go any other way. But just coming up with it, I could imagine being a huge challenge.
It was a struggle, yeah. Thank you for acknowledging it, really.
Okay, so last question, then we'll turn to the Q&A. I know the character I consider a hero in Little Lovely Things. Without spoiling anything, do you think your choice of hero would agree with mine? And do you think most readers will agree on the hero question?
Absolutely. Hands down.
We're done.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. I've heard feedback from plenty of readers, and again, we don't want to give this away, but this character owned my heart, still owns my heart, and came to me fully developed. I just had to write him. He literally just showed up, and I still adore him. I think of him as a human being, and so yes, I think, I gave it away, didn't I?
You gave away the gender. It's so hard.
Darn it.
And it'll be an interesting question to see if you guys agree, because I have a feeling that there might be more debate than you think there is.
Well, one person said the dog was their favorite character. I thought maybe the parakeet. I don't know. So.
No, but I really don't want to give anything away, but no, I think there's even another choice that would be more out there that could be.
Ooh, I need to talk to this lady.
You should do book clubs. This will be a big book club discussion, and
help people.
That's all I've got for Maureen. I hope there'll be tons of Q&A from the audience. I can come up with some others to throw you off guard if you guys all sit silently, but otherwise.
Who do we?
2 or 3 audience questions.
Okay.
So if people want to raise your hands and you choose the lucky few.
Okay, please, Michelle. This is my niece, Michelle, who's been a terrific supporter for a very long time. Thank you so much, Michelle.
I love you. So why Chicago? You've lived all over the place. What was it about Chicago in this time period that spoke to you?
Interesting question, right? So I am a Midwesterner through and through, even though I live on the East Coast. I started the book in Michigan, didn't work. Just like the timing, I can't tell you why, didn't feel right. And Chicago just made sense to me because I thought I wasn't as familiar, and I felt like I could imagine things more. I would pull it more out of my imagination. But it's interesting because Anna lives in Chicago, and I had made up some street names because I thought, okay, no one will then actually have a actual location. She called me up and said, Maureen, there's a street there that and it doesn't add up with the 2 cross streets, and people in Chicago will be mad. So I said, okay, we'll make up another name. So I really wanted it to be in the Midwest because I feel like there's a Midwestern sensibility about it. I don't know if that's true, but that's how I feel about it. So thank you.
For the writing process, how did that work in terms of, you were talking a lot about time, and I'm her daughter, by the way, but I actually don't know the answer to this.
That's my daughter. I'm wondering when I'm going to hear.
I'm genuinely curious. Do you start from the beginning? Is it like, okay, page 1, writing, or is it one scene and then the rest of the story unfolds? How did that work in terms of actually writing the story?
Did not start from the beginning. The beginning came last. That's the hardest to write. Scenes came to me and I wrote them. They came to me and I wrote them. And that was kind of frustrating too, because I had to pull it all together like a puzzle. And some of them went well together and some didn't. I have a whole drawer of scenes I'm waiting to throw out back into the book, and it's not going to happen. But my mind is kind of chaotic, and I could never do linearly. I just couldn't, right? But it's just not the way, my writing process. Jenny, how about you?
No, this is what I mean about being like unsophisticated. I just sit down, I'm like A, B, C, D. It happens like a domino row, like the thing that hits the thing that makes the next thing. No, and also, I mean, I am not clever enough to do puzzles. I could not piece it together. Really,
This woman is a USA Today best-selling author, and
that's because I make it up. But no, I could not.
You're a Mary Higgins Clark Award winner.
Also
I mean, come on.
Not relevant to the clever question.
Oh my gosh. So do we have one more time for Jennifer? Jennifer is an author of So Great. I can't remember your book name. I'm so sorry, Jennifer. I would, but I'm too stressed. So
I'm curious if you're working on another book right now.
oh my God. Okay. I have had 0 time to work on another book. 0 time. Yet I have like 5 packed in my head. So my husband, Jim, said to me, if you don't start writing, your head's going to explode. He goes, I just see it in your eyes. They're starting to pop. So I do indeed. In fact, I have to say this too. I was asked to write an article for Women's Books, Women's Fiction. And they said, why are you a writer? What makes you write? And I said, gee, I don't know how to answer that question. I said it out loud. And Jim, I don't know if he was walking by to do the laundry or what. He just goes, what are you talking about? Your head will explode if you don't write. So I put that in the article. I said, this keeps me from my brains being all over the place. Right? I did. And she loved it. So... Are we going to do another question, or do we have to wrap up the questions, Cynthia? Oh, Bob.
Hi, Maureen.
I can't believe you're here. I just can't. Oh, my God.
You obviously had a life before this. What made you decide at this point in time to do this? What?
So, Bob, I think you know this. I've been working on this for like 12 years.
I know, but what drove you at this point in time to sit down and actually write it?
So you mean when I started the book?
No, when you made a decision a couple of years ago to finish the book.
Oh, yeah. You've been with me for a while. Really and truly, because I felt that if I didn't do it, I wouldn't forgive myself. I just felt that if I didn't complete this circle in my life, I had such a strong desire for it, and it was such a dream. I just thought if I do not I had to work through all my fears associated with it. Fear of failure, fear of barriers, fears of exposure. It's really very exposing to do this, I just had to work through all of those because I knew I wouldn't forgive myself otherwise. So that's what it really comes down to,
Made your dreams come true.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you, Bob, for coming tonight.